When we watch all of the best players in the world, it's clear to see that there isn't one perfect setup position or perfect posture that's going to suit all golfers. We do, however, want to make sure we're creating a posture that's going to allow us to make full flowing swings that provide accurate and powerful golf shots with very little or no chance for injury. The best way to think about this is to create a neutral posture. And the ideal way to describe a neutral posture would be to avoid extremes. If we look at it from down the line first, we need to tilt forward from the hips. If we use the hips for the tilt, we can maintain the natural curvature of our spine. So again, we want to avoid extremes. We want to try not to stay perfectly straight. We don't want to bend backwards, or we don't want to tilt exaggeratedly forwards. So if we simply tilt forward from the hips, the spine is in a neutral position and we have the ability to move well. Second would be the knees. So we need to bend the knees a little. We don't want them locked straight, but we don't want to be crouching down either. So we could describe it as a softening of the knees. Allow the knees to bend just a little and then leave it at that. So we have tilted forward from the hips, we have a neutral spine, and we have a little bit of knee flex. The arms should either hang down quite naturally or maybe be a little bit out away from the body. This is going to give us enough freedom of movement to swing back and through without being limited. If we take our posture where we bend the knees a little, tilt forward, and then find a comfortable arm position, the length of the club will then dictate how far we stand from the ball. So if I take a comfortable setup and the ball is too far away, I'm not going to reach for it, I'm simply going to move this comfortable setup forward until I reach the ball. If we now look at it from face on, the first thing to look at would be stance width. The wider we set our feet, the more stable we will be, but it also may limit our motion. On the other hand, if we have a narrower stance, we may have good range of motion, but we may be a little bit unstable. So we're looking for a balance between the two. The general advice would be to look at the width of the shoulders. However, you may find that you have very wide shoulders or very narrow shoulders, and depending on how tall you are, shoulder width might not be the best thing for you. If we take the hip width, of course, that's a more direct influence on the legs, as this is where they're attached. So if we could set up with the inside of the feet in line with the outside of the hips, you'll find we have stability, as the stance width is wide enough to provide this, but we also have mobility, and as it's easy to move back and through. So very simply, if you can stand in front of a mirror, outside of the hip to the inside of the feet, and that's your stance width. Now if we look at how we grip the club, we clearly have one hand higher than the other. And if our arms are of a very similar length, this means we're going to have a little bit of a shoulder tilt. So with all golfers, you tend to see the right shoulder is lower than the left as we set up, and this is perfectly normal. To begin with, it often feels a bit strange. So golfers will try to get a more level feeling, but this may affect other things. So it's this right shoulder lower that's the key to allowing the right hand to be lower than the left without affecting other parts of the setup. The third and final part of setup that I would look at is our hand position. Most people naturally set up with their hands very central and the club shaft vertical. However, with most golf shots, we want to arrive at impact with the hands left of centre. Whether this is an iron with the shaft leaning forward, or whether we have a driver with a vertical shaft but the ball position is more forward. So as such, it makes sense that we could set up with the hands in a position where they're going to be at impact. And this would be in front of the left leg. So if we take our setup, we get our stance width, the width of our hips, we drop the right shoulder down to get the right hand below the left, and then we push the hands forward so that the left hand is in front of the left leg. This is going to provide us with a perfect setup position for almost all shots in golf. There are a few variations, but it's specific shots like bunkers or maybe flop shots, so very high lofted shots around the green. But for standard golf shots, whether it's with wedges, irons, woods or driver, a reasonably wide stance, right shoulder lower than the left, and the left hand in front of the left leg. So when building our setup and posture, we have 3 main keys from face on and 3 main keys from down the line. From down the line, we want to make sure we're tilting forward from the hips, we're softening our knees just a little, and then our arms are hanging down quite naturally. From face on, we'd like to have our stance width about the same width as the hips. We have to make sure the right shoulder has dropped down below the left, and we're starting with our left hand in front of our left leg.